By October 1942, German war production faced a mathematical crisis that threatened the entire Eastern Front strategy. Each Tiger I heavy tank consumed roughly 250,000 to 300,000 Reichsmarks and required several times more man-hours to manufacture than simpler designs, while Soviet factories were producing T-34 medium tanks at a rate exceeding 1,300 units per month. The Wehrmacht needed a counterweapon that could kill T-34s without bankrupting the Reich's already strained industrial capacity. The StuG III provided the solution through brutal economic efficiency. Production cost came in at roughly a quarter the price of a Tiger I. The vehicle utilized the existing Panzer III chassis already in mass production at Alket's Berlin Spandau factory, eliminating the need for new tooling or specialized manufacturing facilities. And assembly required a fraction of the man-hours consumed by the Tiger, allowing German industry to produce 3 to 4 StuG IIIs in the time and resources required to build a single heavy tank. If you're interested in how wars are actually decided by logistics, math, weapons, and doctrine, subscribe now, turn on notifications, and stay tuned for more in-depth World War II analysis. Let's continue. The design sacrificed the Tiger's rotating turret, which demanded specialized components and tens of thousands of man-hours of precision machining. Instead, the StuG III mounted its 7.5cm StuG 40/48 gun in a fixed casemate welded directly to the chassis. This casemate structure used flat armor plates requiring minimal forming. 50mm frontal armor and 30mm side plates could be cut and welded by semi-skilled workers rather than requiring the curved, interlocking armor of turreted designs. The StuG III also fit within standard railway gauge restrictions without specialized flat cars, while the Tiger's 57-ton weight demanded custom transport equipment and reinforced rail routes, limiting deployment flexibility when every day of transit time mattered. Crew training accelerated production advantages into battlefield availability. Tiger crews required months of specialized instruction to operate the complex Maybach HL-230 engine, hydraulic turret traverse, and 8-speed transmission. StuG III crews completed training in a fraction of that time. SORC as the fixed gun eliminated turret operation skills, and the SSG-76 transmission used components familiar to any Panzer III trained driver. Between 1942 and 1945, German factories delivered about 10,500 StuG III variants, compared to 1,347 Tigers. The production disparity reflected industrial reality. Germany could field 3 to 4 StuG IIIs capable of destroying T-34s at combat ranges for the resource cost of one Tiger. When facing Soviet tank production exceeding 84,000 units during the war, German survival depended not on engineering perfection, but on manufacturing mathematics. At 2.16 meters from ground to roofline, the StuG III AUSFG stood barely taller than a Wehrmacht infantryman with raised arms, a dimensional reality that transformed defensive tactics across the Eastern Front during 1942's transition to static warfare. The turretless casemate design eliminated the weight of a rotating mechanism, mass redirected into frontal armor sufficient to protect against Soviet 45mm anti-tank guns at combat ranges, though vulnerable to the newer 76.2mm weapons beyond 500 meters. The 7.5cm StuG 40L/48 mounted in this low profile delivered muzzle velocity of approximately 750 to 770 meters per second with the standard PSGR 39 armor-piercing round. The assault gun carried 54 rounds in its cramped interior, where 4 crew members operated in conditions that increased fatigue during extended defensive stands. The gunner peered through a Rundblick Fernrohr 32 sight, an optical system providing very high first-shot hit probability against stationary targets at 500 meters under ideal conditions, so transforming the vehicle into a precision instrument when properly concealed. The contrast with Germany's heavy armor became stark in hull-down deployment. The Tiger I measured 3 meters in height, its massive turret rising roughly 80 centimeters above the StuG's roofline. a silhouette that remained visible behind earthworks, offering the ambush vehicle complete concealment. A StuG III commander could position his casemate behind a slight ridge or shallow crater, exposing only the gun mantlet's narrow profile while maintaining full fields of fire across open approaches. The Tiger's commander enjoyed 360-degree turret traverse, but advertised his position to every Soviet anti-tank crew within visual range. The SSG 76 transmission provided 6 forward speeds, thus replacing the unreliable Varirex system that plagued earlier variants with chronic breakdowns. The absence of turret hydraulics eliminated another failure point, creating a vehicle Panzerjäger battalions could maintain with standard toolsets during the Rasputitsa mud seasons. Tactical doctrine emphasized rapid repositioning after 3 to 4 shots, fire, displace, survive, exploiting the low profile that made Soviet counter-battery response consistently ineffective against properly disciplined crews. Spring 1942 brought a mechanical metamorphosis to the production lines. The 7.5 cm StuG 37L/24 infantry support gun, designed to lob high explosive shells at bunkers, gave way to the 7.5 cm StuG 40L/48, a weapon engineered for a fundamentally different mission. Where the L/24 propelled its armor-piercing rounds at approximately 385 meters per second, the L/48 achieved roughly 750 to 770 meters per second with a standard Pasture 39 APCBC projectile. This velocity increase delivered penetration of approximately 95 to 100 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor at 500 meters at 30 degrees, sufficient to breach the T-34's 45mm frontal plate with mathematical certainty. The short-barreled predecessor managed only about 41mm under identical conditions, forcing crews into suicidal, close-range engagements. OKH directives in 1942 steadily reclassified StuG units from infantry support formations to Panzerjäger, tank destroyer, detachments, and training shifted accordingly. Indirect fire exercises gave way to direct fire engagement drills against moving armor at ranges exceeding 1,000 meters. By summer 1942, StuG units equipped with the L-48 reported very favorable kill ratios against T-34s during Operation Blue's opening phases, sometimes claiming several Soviet tanks destroyed for each assault gun lost. The vehicle that began existence lobbing shells over hedgerows now engaged Soviet armor formations in open-steppe duels. In the typical defensive engagement of early 1944, a StuG III commander would position his AOSF G into the foundation ruins of a burned collective farm somewhere west of Korostin. The 2.16-meter superstructure disappeared behind collapsed masonry as the crew dragged frozen branches across the casemate's angular plates. Sapeta crewmen paced forward, hammering range stakes into frozen earth at 400, 600, and 800 meters along the identified Soviet approach axis. The 12-degree traverse arc per side faced directly down this corridor, the gun pre-sighted on the 600-meter mark where advancing T-34s would emerge from the woodline. The fixed casemate's inability to traverse beyond 24 degrees total forced precise terrain selection. Commanders chose positions where enemy approach routes funneled into the gun's restricted arc, rather than attempting to track targets across broader fields. The ambush platform's low profile presented half the silhouette of a Panzer IV, reducing detection range by Soviet observers scanning for turret outlines. Vehicles routinely remained undetected at 450 meters until opening fire, fan superstructures blending into farmhouse shadows, while the 296 horsepower Maybach H.L. 120 TRM idled at minimum throttle to eliminate exhaust signature. Crews allocated specific round types to pre-measured ranges. Armor piercing for the 400 to 800 meter kill zone, high explosive for infantry suppression beyond effective penetration distances. The Ausfortra G carried 23.9 tons into combat, over 3 tons heavier than earlier variants. The Maybach engine still produced 296 horsepower, the same output specified for vehicles weighing considerably less. The degraded power-to-weight ratio compromised acceleration and cross-country mobility precisely when ambush doctrine demanded rapid repositioning. By early 1945, its operational range shrank across the broken terrain of East Prussia and Silesia as fuel trucks struggled to reach positions that Soviet armored spearheads increasingly encircled. Soviet assault tactics evolved to exploit the StuG III's fundamental vulnerability: 30mm side and rear armor that 76.2mm ZIS III anti-tank guns penetrated at ranges exceeding 500 meters. Tank riders accompanying T-34 advances dismounted with satchel charges, targeting the engine deck, while the casemate's limited traverse prevented engaging flanking threats. Excellent hit probability to the front became irrelevant when Soviet infantry closed from the sides. Crews abandoning immobilized vehicles after track failure destroyed more StuG IIIs than enemy action during the January 1945 Vistula-Oder offensive. The tactical philosophy of 1941, choose positions, to wait for targets, withdraw before counterattack, collapsed into continuous retreat where mechanical strain created self-inflicted casualties. The Wehrmacht's most produced armored fighting vehicle left Alkit's lines in quantities that dwarfed every other German design. Against this manufacturing tally stands the operational claim: tens of thousands of enemy vehicles credited to StuG III units across all fronts. If these claims are taken at face value, the arithmetic yields roughly 3 enemy vehicles destroyed for every casemate Hunter produced. The gun penetrated around 95 to 100 millimeters of armor at 500 meters, matching the killing power of far more expensive designs. Alkit's pragmatic solution transformed the Panzer III chassis into Germany's most cost-effective tank destroyer through the elimination of one component: the turret. This tactical effectiveness failed to alter strategic outcomes. The Wehrmacht's arithmetic answer could not compensate for the Red Army's numerical superiority, logistical endurance, or operational depth during the 1944 Bagration offensive, which destroyed Army Group Center despite concentrated StuG III deployments. By May 1945, the casemate Hunter's impressive kill ratio had delayed but not prevented the Third Reich's military collapse. The mathematical crisis of October 1942 had found its solution in the StuG III's brutal efficiency. Yet even 10,500 vehicles could not overcome the industrial calculus that delivered several Soviet tanks for every German assault gun. Post-war Western designers adopted similar low-profile, turretless tank destroyer concepts, seen in vehicles like the M56 Scorpion and Kanonenjagd Panzer. The StuG III's combat record demonstrated that specialized platforms optimized for ambush could achieve higher kill rates than general-purpose tanks, a lesson incorporated into defensive armored warfare doctrine throughout the Cold War. That brings us to the end of this video. We hope you found it worthwhile. If you would like to support us in our mission to continue sharing stories like this with as wide an audience as possible, then please consider joining our growing Patreon community. Your support is hugely appreciated. That is all for this time. Thanks again, and we will see you soon.